Hi, everyone. So I'm coming to you live, and I am going to be talking today about stretching. And I am going to explain to you that you are way more flexible than you think. So a lot of people think that they're not flexible, but we all have so much untapped potential in the length of our muscles not utilizing. So I'm going to teach you how to access the length of your muscles today so that you can realize that you're way more flexible than you think. So the first misconception that causes people to think that they're not flexible is that they conceive of the muscles off. So our muscles, a lot of times people think that by stretching, they're going to make their muscles longer. And it's true, they will make the muscles relax into length, but they won't necessarily make the muscle longer. So allow me to explain. Our muscle, after around the age of like 18, 19-ish, however long they were then is about as long as they're going to be for the rest of our lives. However, a lot of us live with our muscles in a pretty contracted state so that they aren't realizing the full potential of that length. So let's say your muscle is this long, right? Like 80, 90% of that length. I don't know for sure the numbers, but bear with me. So you can't make your muscle bigger than 100% by stretching, but you can get your muscle to go from the 80% that you're currently at to its full potential of 100%. So to do that, we have to contract. Like let's say I engage my bicep muscle. When the muscle contracts, the muscle fibers come together. And then when I extend my arm, the muscle fibers lengthen, right? So what we want to do when we stretch is we want to imagine that our muscle fibers are relaxing into length. Now, a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people keep the muscle fibers pretty contracted as they stretch because the muscle is too engaged to really relax and stretch. And so the muscle's engaged, and then they're kind of yanking it into length. When it would be ideal if they could relax the muscle fibers and allow them to relax into length. And that way, you can reach the full potential length of your muscle. So I do this a lot when I'm stretching. I'm not thinking about just getting the muscle to be longer. I always breathe into the muscle fibers and allow them to relax into length. So I literally imagine that on the inhale, my muscle is filling up with air, and on the exhale, it's just relaxing into length. On the inhale, it's filling up with air. On the exhale, it's relaxing into length. So the next time you stretch, think about that. Think about the muscle fibers relaxing into length versus trying to make them longer. So if you have a stick or anything solid that you could use, I want to just go through this with you of what this would feel like. So my new favorite stretch, this is my Aikido Joe stick. And my new favorite stretch is to take my arms up overhead. Oh, it feels so good. So I recommend this stretch. Now, as I'm doing this, I'm not thinking like yanking my pec muscles open or any of that. I'm just imagining that my pec muscles are relaxing into length. And of course, it's very likely that you can't go all the way around like that. But that's okay, because I think eventually you can. You just go very slowly and imagine that the muscles are relaxing into length. So the muscles in your arm, the muscles in your pec, all of the muscles are just relaxing open. When you find a spot that's tight, just send your breath into those muscles and imagining the fibers relaxing away from each other into length. So that's a really great stretch to do. See, I imagine that these muscles were relaxing into length. I imagine that these muscles were relaxing into length. All the muscles were just relaxing into length. So that's the first major misconception, is that people are trying to make their muscles longer when actually they should be relaxing the muscle fibers into length. And again, you can use your breath to do that. The second major misconception about stretching, which is so sad because, again, we all have so much potential to be way more flexible, but because we think about it in the wrong way, we end up really limiting how flexible we can be. So the second misconception is that we focus on muscles when we're stretching. And we focus on like the long, big muscles. Like we think in order to be more flexible in the legs, I need like longer hamstrings, right? Well, no, actually I am very flexible, but I wasn't that flexible as a kid. And I was one of the last ones in my ballet class to be able to do the splits. And I had to really work at my flexibility. And I'm actually still not that flexible. But my secret is that I relax the joints. I don't even think about the muscles as much. I just think about relaxing the joint. Now, of course, what I'm really doing is relaxing the muscles around the joint. So it still is about the muscles, but it's best to focus on the freedom of the joint. You want the joint to be, that will increase your range tremendously. So a lot of times people aren't inflexible, like especially with the hamstrings. People aren't inflexible because they have really tight hamstrings. That's rarely the case, I think. What I see is that it's people's hips are so tight. So they're sitting there like this and they can't reach their toes, right? But if they could relax the hip joint, and there's so much room in the hip joint, they could relax the hip joint, then it's easy to reach over because the hip joint is so relaxed. So the way to do that is you want to imagine that all the muscles around the joints are melting. They're melting and relaxing. And that is allowing tremendous space to open up in the joint. And we have so much space in the joints. You can see it if you look at people who do crazy yoga poses. You're just like, how is that possible? It's not because their muscles are super long. It's that their joints are open. So their joints are allowing all of this space and all of this freedom of movement. So if we were to take the stick again, and we were to do the stretch, this time I want you to imagine the muscle fibers relaxing into length, but then also imagine that your shoulder joint, all the muscles around your shoulder joint are opening. And what helps me is that I actually grip kind of harder on the stick in order to allow my shoulder muscles to relax. I'm kind of like pulling away at the stick. And so see there, like my shoulders are engaged, right? If I just can relax this shoulder joint. See, I just relax the shoulder joint and I have so much more movement. I have so much more possibility for movement. And here, I can feel my muscles tightening up again. And I just relax them back. Here. And then if you take a nice deep breath, I often get a nice spine crack there. And so my joints are open and my muscles are relaxing into length. So that was my trick. I have crazy open hips. I have crazy flexible hips. And yeah, I have dances where I do crazy things with my legs and my hips. And people are always like, you're so flexible. And I'm like, I got that on the floor for half an hour to an hour at night, just moving my leg just a little bit and relaxing the joint as much as I could. And I wanted to see if I could lift my leg and still keep my joint relaxed. So these are the two ideas today for stretching. Relax your muscle fibers into length and relax your joints. And I promise you, you will be so much more flexible. You will discover that you can go way further than you thought. And you can no longer limit yourself to say that you're not flexible. All right. Well, thank you.